Eden Koz here with Just Be, and we are about to take a spiritual boom. We are at an unprecedented time in human history where we are transitioning from 3D to 5D within the great spiritual awakening. This video and audio podcast is the place for you to find your truth beyond politics, your sovereignty, your voice. Let's kick up your vibration now. By the way, each episode ends with the Just Be practice to do just that. And as we begin the show, just to know a little bit more about me, I'm a soul realignment specialist, meditation master, and dimensional healer. Learn more, and there's merch also at EdenJustBe.com. Let's get this party started. Eden Just Be Spiritual Boom in association with the wonderful Kevin and Lisa and all my friends at the Grassroots Warriors Network. Jeilene, Vibrational Genetics, and more. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
You are yeah, it's great. I know you're Pacific time. Where are you exactly?
I'm in Santa Cruz, California.
Santa Cruz, California. We have a lot of people from California on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let me go ahead and put this out there. I could definitely, for me today, use a jolt of the divine feminine and masculine, the equality of them. I've discussed on the show, I'm 3 months into this divine heart relationship. I think you and I might have talked about it a little bit when you and I chatted offline. But just to continue, if anybody else is doing this, it is beautiful and it is really hard. And I'm at the point where there's, this has allowed me to really see myself, what my integrity is, what I'm willing to wait for in terms of the ascension and intimacy and that sort of thing. So it is tough to break the programming of, as a woman, you're supposed to do this, as a man, you're supposed to do this, and you're supposed to act this way. So we are in the midst of that right now. And one other thing I wanted to bring up before I read Jailene's bio is Harry, the soul coach, was on my show last week, and I was on his show this morning. So beautiful. So I'm going through this moment today, and Jeilene, you'll probably feel it, where normally I come on the show, I'm like, so great. And then some challenging moments at the same time, so much of this polarity. So we'll see how I am through all this. But also knowing that none of the outside really can rattle me unless I allow it to. Mm-hmm. This is a great segue into you. Jeilene works with her guidance team to access the multidimensional field for sound healing, intuitive guidance, and DNA clearing and activations. She combines the guidance she receives with her scientific background in DNA, epigenetics, and the body systems to offer a uniquely grounded and detailed healing modality called vibrational genetics. She also offers in-depth courses on a variety of topics to expand the knowledge base of humanity. Meditations and healing sessions with her incorporate the use of sound frequencies to shift discordant energies back into harmony, shift DNA function, and clear trauma from the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies. She offers private sessions, courses, workshops, retreats, wellness counseling, and meditations. That's beautiful. Okay, now I want to go in to your background, because it's so interesting how things in your life just lead you in a certain direction. Like for me, I worked at a radio station when I was 16 years old, and I wanted to be a DJ and found out it was not for me. Yet I've been doing this podcast for 3 years.
You are, exactly.
And knowing how to put snippets together and all that. It's just wild. All right. So your biotech background, the atheist background, first I want to know about spiritually waking up, and then New Earth waking up. But then that also gets into vibrational genetics. And I watched a podcast that you had done, or a speech that you had done about 5 years ago on that, assuming a lot of that might have changed, even though the foundation is still there. All right. So kick us off, woman.
Okay. Well, I really think of myself as an energy alchemist, because we, as you know, are going through this amazing time of transition on the planet. I really think that I incarnated during this time to come back and help a lot of people transition through this huge energy shift we're going through. So we're learning how to vibrate at one frequency and then shift our entire body's frequency, which all happens through the DNA, into another resonant frequency. And the process of that is, is there's a lot of growing pains. So you're talking about a lot of shifts that are happening with you. You're going through an emotional time. That is happening to everybody right now because there's a lot of energetic pressure on us. The energetic pressure is actually light that's coming into the planet. There's a lot more light coming in. And so as this light comes in, our DNA gets activated naturally. Our DNA is an instruction set. It's a blueprint. It's the way that our soul is able to manifest itself into form. It does it through the lens of the DNA. And so our DNA is very, very sensitive to its environment. It changes all the time in response to the environment. I mean, you get one night bad sleep and the expression of your DNA changes, right? We've seen this scientifically. So we know that our DNA is in constant communication with the environment. It's a crystalline structure, so it both receives information, it stores information like crystals, and it emits information like crystals. It is a crystal. So that's the crystalline nature of all of us. We're all crystals. And so we should think of ourselves in that way, that we are storehouses of emotional, energetic, all the frequencies. So all the frequencies you're experiencing and taking in can become stored, or in what I would help people do is shift those frequencies into a coherent state, and also to get coherent with frequencies that are beneficial, that are going to help you to evolve and to release the burdens of some of the density of the emotional trauma, and to move into a higher frequency. So that's really what this whole time is about. And I think all the training I had as a young person, I was always interested in science. I was always interested in the DNA and the very littlest part of the molecules. Well, not the physics, little. We're not talking about nano, but we're talking about the DNA always fascinated me. And so in school, I just beelined in that direction towards that part of science, and that's what really lit me up. And I think it's true that no matter what industry you're in, no matter if you're a spiritual practitioner or you're still in the more what we call 3D realm, if you are following your heart, if you're following what lights you up and what excites you, then you cannot go wrong, because that is a breadcrumb that's leading you along your path of purpose. It's leading you along what you came here to do. And I know that I came here to work with DNA, but to alchemize that energy around it so that we can all evolve, because our DNA has been tampered with, but it's also, it's gone through many different phases. It's gone through phases of being at quite a high frequency, and then it's gone through phases of being capped. And where we are right now, as we're coming back out of that time where it's been muffled in its expression, and we're coming into a time where that, those blinders are getting taken off, that wool is getting taken off of the DNA, if you will, and it's shining brighter now, and it's holding more light and more frequency. And that's why we're all feeling this strong urge, and why we are spontaneously going through all of these what seem like challenges, but what they really are is just a massive cleanup of your DNA so that you can shift into the next level.
I really liked how you described it, muffled. I think that's a great, great description. So can we go for a moment and talk about you coming from atheist background, finding God, and the emotional trauma that you went through as a young person?
Yeah. So, when I was raised in a household that was very, my mother had been raised Protestant, maybe. I don't even really remember, but she never talked about it. I knew she grew up going to church, but then raised us thinking like, no, none of that is true. None of that is, church is a waste of time, that all of that. And so she kind of missed out on the whole community aspect of it and all of the benefit and the beauty of it. But anyway, as a kid, I was such a natural scientist, and I know I've had many lifetimes as a scientist. And so it made sense for me, and it was just easy for me to be out in nature, because I grew up in this beautiful natural setting in Santa Cruz, and I was able to be outside and be with nature and be with the bugs and the trees and the grass every day. And so that's where I spent most of my time. And so for me, that was my spirituality. It was nature. And that's where I found my happy place. And I spent all my time outside playing and enjoying myself. And I spent a lot of time alone as a kid. So it's, one could say one is an atheist, but I wouldn't really say, looking back on it, that I actually was, because I had all of the energy around me and I always felt taken care of and I always felt protected. So I would go, we lived, a kind of a fair distance from our neighbors, and I would walk at night between the houses, no problem, as a little kid, and I always knew I was protected. Always knew something was watching over me. So I never felt worried or scared of the dark, because I always felt protected. And I later learned, many years later, that I had a group of beings that was around me that I just didn't quite understand at the time because they didn't present themselves to me. But I found that out later. But I did have some experiences as a child. So I always knew, and I always had an interest in sort of, what's on the underbelly of the whole thing. I was always interested in the occult. I was always interested in what you might think of as like witchcraft, or the idea that we can interact with our environment in that way. That there's spirits. I believed in spirits.
So
And
you
when I was,
always had that when you were in nature, there
yeah,
was something that was just intrinsic. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. So it's because when you can feel it, you know.
Hmm.
And then when I was about 9 years old, I was in my mom's bathroom at the far end of the house, and I heard clear as a bell a clarinet playing. And I knew that her deceased first husband, before she married my father and had me, had been playing the clarinet shortly before he had passed.
Okay.
So I just knew immediately, even though I was pretty little and I didn't know much about him because I'd just been a little kid, that was him playing his
Wow.
clarinet. And it was clear as a bell. There was no one in the house. And so I was having experiences like that helped me understand there was more to it. But I had also been hard coded into me, and it's something that I came as in this incarnation to repair my relationship with the I am presence, repair my relationship with source. So that was a journey that took me a long time to come around. So I was comfortable with spirits and with this and with that, but to say God, for me, it was very hard for many, many years. And it was pervasive across all my relationships with that, whatever is the stand-in for God in this
Okay.
lifetime, whether it's my father or any other male in my life, right? Because we have the masculine and the feminine. And we generally associate masculine with that God figurehead or sun, and
Right.
then the feminine with earth, right? And the goddess. I didn't have any problem with the goddess. I just had the problem with the God. It was just about the masculine for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So going in, I know that a dear friend of yours helped open you up. Were you already in biotech at that point when you reconnected with her?
Oh, yeah. I had worked many years in biotech. So I'd gone through college and gotten my job and got married, and had my kids. So I have three kids, and all three of them were born at that point. So it was just about when my youngest was about a year old. It was 2011. And sorry, not a year old. She was about 3 years old at that point. It was 2011, and I started. Um, I started feeling like things in my life just weren't quite right. And I was getting pressure from different aspects of my life, about whether it was the way I was parenting, the way I was doing relationship.
Yeah.
I was having my moment of intensity. And I had been for a few years. And so finally, I happened to run into an old friend that I went to school with since grammar school. And I found out she was a psychic medium. And immediately I knew I had to see her.
Okay.
Even though I had this very scientific background, I thought I've always wanted to do that, right?
Right. And you'd always
Um,
had that propensity to the occult, and like there was an interest that was
yeah,
already there. And you,
yeah.
instead of going, what the heck are you doing? Like, oh, I need to see you. Okay. What happened from that point?
So I went to see her and I was just blown away. I mean, the things that she knew, she described my kids' personalities
Oh,
perfectly. She connected with my motherhood past, my grandfather, and it was just so accurate. And it was as if she had given me permission to finally say,
oh,
okay, this is all real, and this is actually happening. The thing that really blew me away is I went to see her again because I had more questions, of course. As soon as you get that permission and somebody opens the door, you're like, well, okay, well, now I have a lot of questions, right?
Right.
One of them, first point, like, is there a God? What is that? And so that was really good to talk to her about all of that.
Oh,
Um, and she gave me the answer because she's with people who've passed all day long. And so, of
yeah.
course, she was able to give me this beautiful answer about, how we continue on and about how we're all energy and that how we're all moving and that, yes, there is this source energy behind all of this. And so the beautiful thing was at the end, she said, I want you to know, and this is going to sound very strange, but I want you to know that you are very similar to me and that you could be doing what I'm doing. I said, what? I don't think so. And because, you shove down all those experiences you have as a kid when you get in lock stock with the 3D world and, you're just going about your life. And I was busy with my kids and everything. And I just couldn't believe it. So, but she said it, she planted the seed. I immediately went to the library after my session. I got all these books on psychic development and meditation and all of this. And I began reading, and like a good little scientist, I started reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't stop, and I haven't stopped, and that was 2011.
Okay, so we're like for
So,
me, it's I have to experience it versus just reading it.
oh yeah,
How did you read it? Because I'm assuming with your background too, it's easy or not easy, but I'm going to use that word to read and to study.
yeah.
And then did you try applying it after that? What was
I
your process?
did. So I took a class that was it was kind of like a beginning energy class of trying all these different modalities. Like we
Okay.
talked about shamanism, we talked about Reiki, we talked about working with energy. And what I found was that everything I tried, I could do. And I thought, wow, and I thought, oh, I bet everybody can do this. And it's true, everybody can do
Mhm.
everything when they allow themselves, that permission and they open themselves up. But it was coming so quickly and so easily for me. I thought, maybe she was right. It was happy. It was like, wow, I didn't know I could do all this stuff. And people were feeling the energy. I took a Reiki class then, which I called the gateway drug because, Reiki opens us up and those
Yes.
attunements are amazing and it
Mhm.
really shifts you. So, and then I just started taking a lot of different classes. I did a lot of theta healing classes and then I studied something called body talk. So I was doing a lot of different modalities and I began practicing and I began working with other people. I began understanding how I could apply all that I had learned through my science background and instead apply it to a mind body medicine, alchemy, energy alchemy, where I was helping people release and understand where their physical maladies were coming from, what the
Yeah.
energetic underpinnings of them were, and how I could really help people move and shift into another frequency and another expression of their DNA. So that was a big transformation for me that occurred over a decade, and it was a wonderful process. I really, really enjoyed it because it was such a fun exploration, and the exploration never stops. But during that time, I was so wide-eyed, and I was doing it with friends. I had a couple friends that I did
Yeah.
it with. It was so much fun. We would laugh, we would try everything. Some stuff wouldn't work, other stuff would. And we would meet every week and we would practice with each other. And we all had kids, and so we'd wait till our kids went to bed, and then we'd all go over to one of our houses, and we just had so much fun. And that's how I really got to experiment with all of these different things.
So I'm going to laugh a bit like your witchy coven coming
It was,
together.
we called it
Right.
coven.
Did you really?
We did. Yeah,
Well,
we
and that's
did.
so neat that you did have this group that y'all, it sounded like you could be completely free and
Yeah.
open with
No
whatever.
judgment. Just try it
Right.
all. Try channeling, try this, try that. Everything. We tried it all. And
That's how
that's
many of them were you? How many?
We're sometimes we'd be about 5 or 6 of us. Sometimes it'll only
Wow.
be 3 of us. It would just vary from week to week depending on who had more stuff going on with their kids.
Yeah. Hey, are you still connected to these women at this
Oh,
point?
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Are they all practicing like you or just Yeah, what's their
So one of
situation?
them, he's actually a man. One of them is my friend James. Actually, two of them are practicing, and well,
Wow.
actually, I'll take it back. So one was already practicing when we started, and she didn't come quite as much because she was fully practicing and a little bit
Wow.
busier than us. But she's definitely part of our group, and but James definitely started going out and practicing, and he has his own podcast called
Nice.
Spirited Body, and he's amazing. And another friend decided that she didn't want to practice, but she continues to love the energy and do the work. And then we've had people kind of come and go that then either started practicing different things. They would do Reiki or different modalities. But the core of us, my girlfriend Denise as well, she also is a practicer and she does these amazing mandalas. So it was so neat to see how we all
Oh,
express the
wow.
energy in different ways. So she's
Yeah.
an artist and she makes these amazing mandalas. James really does like a lot of really deep clearing work. He's got that energy of Michael, so he does a lot of clearing work. And then I'm this DNA energy alchemist person that has always worked with sound frequencies to shift DNA, and that was my deal. And so we all found our way,
Yeah.
and it was also different. It was really fun to see how that evolved.
And yeah, just you talking about this, I was just talking to someone today about the 5D that we're gonna like our consciousness is gonna come closer together. We're really gonna feel that we're all connected, but that doesn't mean that we're gonna lose our uniqueness and what makes
Oh
us
no,
special and
right?
different. Okay, and you're pretty much describing that too, how you guys are all doing this healing work, but this is how you do it from your life, and this is how James does it.
Yeah.
So nice. Okay, I want to go into for a second. Well, I think it was really interesting when you told me before about leaving biotech, but then you heard you need to go back for 18
Oh.
months and you did it. Can you talk about that for a second after you had already been noticing this new path, this new world? Okay,
Yes.
change that up
Yeah.
if I didn't
So
describe it
this
correctly.
is in let's see, when did this happen? It was 2023.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was 2023. So I kept getting woken up in the middle of the night telling me it was time for me to go back to biotech. And I had been out of it since 2013. So I'd been out for a decade. And I thought, that's nuts. I'm no way. I've been doing this energy practice, healing practice. I've been working with, helping people, and they were like, it's time for you to walk the walk and talk the talk. Can you do both? And they said there was, they didn't, oftentimes when we work with our guides and our angelic team, they won't always tell us exactly why they're recommending something that is very beneficial for us, right? Because maybe if we knew the whole story, we'd say, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. That sounds uncomfortable and very, that does
Yeah.
not sound like fun. So this would have been one of those times.
Right.
I mean, the
Right.
whole thing, I look back on it and I'm so grateful that I did it. But if I had known everything that happened along the way, I probably would have said, no, I can get to that same place without doing that. The truth is, I probably couldn't have. I really needed to take myself out of working on other people for a while and then just be in a situation where actually they said, we're going to park you here for 18 months. So I kept getting woken up and I would get very specific instructions, who to contact, when to contact. And they kept bugging me, go contact your friend, blah, blah, blah. So I finally do. And I text him one day and he worked at a biotech company and we had worked together before years ago. And I texted him and I said, hey, I'm just reaching out to see what's going on. Do you guys have any openings? And he writes me back maybe 20 seconds later, which is unusual for this person because usually you wouldn't hear from him for a while. And
Yeah.
he writes me right back and he says, oh, I happen to have an opening. I'm just about to hire somebody. But, if you want to come do it, I would love to have you.
Wow.
So it was like that. And it happened like that. And I almost missed it because I wasn't listening. So there's a good message for everybody. If you're getting guidance, if you're getting woken
Oh,
up, or if you're seeing signs all over the place to do something, do it. Please do it because you might miss that opportunity. And it did end up creating a lot of amazing growth for me. Um, And it was in many ways really good. So they said, we're going to park you here for 18 months. And it was literally to the day when that 18-month day came around. Because it was a challenge for me to be back in the 3D world where people are operating not in a way that is moving them towards their greatest evolutionary path, or are they on their purpose? Are they connecting to that? Do they have an awareness that I worked with a lot of beautiful, amazing people, but I also worked with some people that were really unconscious.
I
So it
I
was
can
hard to
imagine.
be around the whole bag, right?
Right. And
Um,
plus a year and a half. I mean, that's not like, oh, just 3 or 4 months. I mean, this is a nice chunky period of your life.
it was, and it was really good. It helped my relationship, my marriage in many ways because
Oh,
we
wow.
met in biotech, and my husband's still in biotech. So it was really nice actually that we related to each other again in a way because I had very much shifted going into the whole healing arts. It
Yeah.
was an amazing coming together again for us. And so we had a lot of growth that was very important. And I realize now that a lot of the density that I released during that time, because there were some very uncomfortable situations at work with different people. And obviously, as a healer, I stand in my truth. And I've learned from my guides that that is the only energy to stand in. Otherwise, you create a lot of issues in your body, in your physical body, which I'm just not willing to do. So in speaking my truth, a lot of times, then I would, have different situations arise at work where I would say like, okay, your behavior is really bad, but let's talk about this, let's
Gosh.
shift this. So it ended up in the end, shifts were made at the company that I think I had some impact in manifesting, which I think is really good. And that was another reason I probably needed to be there. But in the end, what I realized is when I got to that 18-month point, I was like, okay, I feel like my work here is done. I did what I came to do. I've had some tremendous shifts because what we're going through now, I realize all of that was a big lead up to what we're going through now, which is really, really, really intense shifting, right? It's like
Right.
training wheels are off. Now is the time to unburden yourself of that density because we're about to walk through this portal at the solstice that is really, really going to activate our DNA in ways that it hasn't been activated in many, many thousands of years. And so it's an important, important milestone that we're about to walk through.
Okay. What is the date of that or the dates?
June 20th. Yeah.
Okay. And knowing our show is going to be published the first week of June, so y'all have some time. All right. Can you talk more about that, the solstice?
Absolutely. So the equinox occurred in March, right? And the equinox was an important, what my guides called it was a turnstile. So, a turnstile when you're walking through, and it's one of those things that has it's like a T, right? You walk through it and you can't go back. You can only go forward, but some
Yeah.
of them spin all the way around, right? So for a lot of people, my guides described the equinox like a turnstile, where you had this opportunity to walk through and go into a new level of healing, a new level of transformation, or you could turn around and come back and go from whence you came. So everyone has a choice. This is, free choice, free will. Do you want to go into the next phase of human evolution, or do you want to turn around and are you not ready to leave the density? You're not ready to leave the third dimensional expression, which is perfectly fine, by the way. There's no judgment in any of it. Everybody needs to stay where they feel like they need to spend time on their karma. They need to spend time on their own soul's evolution. Where do you feel like you need to do that? So if you weren't ready to let go of some of the trauma, drama, and some of the wheels of existence that you've been subsisting in and have a hard time letting go of, that's okay. You can stay there. But it was a decision point. So that decision point, then, if you went through it, then it catapulted you into this plateau of energy that we've been in ever since March. And so this plateau, we've all been feeling it. There's been a lot of energetic pressure coming in, and that's because we're getting closer and closer to that equinox. So the way they've described, the solstice, the way they've described the solstice is that it's demarcated by the date and time when the sun is the highest in the sky in the northern hemisphere. And the northern hemisphere is where for the last many thousands of years we've had our magnetic north, right? So it's it's an important place on the planet. Eventually, we're going to shift back to the poles being flipped, but right now the poles are as they are, and they have been for many thousands of years. And what's important about that is that this northern hemisphere is undergoing this massive shift. Obviously, the whole Earth is going through this massive shift, but the northern hemisphere is where there's so much stuck density and energy of polarity and division and divisiveness. It's not that everything in the south obviously is running smoothly and perfect, but if you look at the origins of where the polarity really has come from on this planet in this last epoch of, say 10,000, 15,000 years, it's happening up in this northern hemisphere, and it's spreading like a cancer all the way across the globe.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're moving into a time of is moving out of that massive polarity, and we're moving into a time of that Christed consciousness, I am presence being reactivated in our DNA and coming into fruition into the consciousness of the people who are ready to embrace it, to the people who are ready to step into that light. The light is here. It's not going to affect everybody in the same way. For some, the light will be too bright, and they'll say, you know what, it's actually my time to exit. I'm going to take my exit ramp, and I'm going to reincarnate again later when I'm ready, after I've had a rest as a soul. For some people, it will be a time of turmoil. For other people, it'll be a time of massive growth and extra awakening, right? We've all been on this awakening journey, but there's so many levels and stages of that as we move into higher bands of frequency. We don't really know what is around the next corner because we're not in that frequency. But when we start to match that frequency, then we start to have experiences, and we start to experience ourselves in entirely new ways. We don't exactly know what that's going to be until we get there because we're not there.
Right. And that tags into, I've talked about the feeling of love too, that I had someone on the show a while back, and I love this, that we don't really know what love is because it's evolving, or maybe we knew what it was in the past, but as our hearts are opening, it's just going to be so astounding. And I'm feeling more and more of that each day. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, as it keeps growing and getting bigger, I can't get this smile off my face, and just feeling it. Oh, it's so yummy.
I agree. And that is the frequency that's coming in. It feels like that love frequency, that very, very profound, intense. And what is that love frequency? That is that I am presence that we all have within ourselves. And it does come in through the heart. And that is actually the process. You say we do a process with each of your shows, and that's what I want to do with people, is to bring that light into the light of that I am presence into the heart and radiate it through the DNA. And because there's a still point within the heart that has an interaction with our divine DNA, and our DNA has physical levels, but also many energetic levels around it, and it all connects in through the heart.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask about your team as well, because I don't think on the show we've ever talked about the Mantis, so I'd love to hear that. Yet I do want to ask you this first. So mental illness being so pervasive right now, there are a lot of things that are pervasive, and I liked you calling it separation sickness, which that is what it is. Can you detail that for just a moment?
Sure. So the third dimensional band of frequency that we have been living in and matching energetically, you could say. So everybody's reality is dependent upon how they vibrate, because however you vibrate is what you match. We're all energy matching. This is where I talk about with coherence of different energy. So when your energy matches a certain frequency, that's what your reality is. That's what you see. That's what you experience. That's what comes towards you and is reflected back to you. It's all about your energy. So in this time where there is so much big energy coming in, there's also a lot of chaotic energy around us. And so if you're not being mindful and conscientious about where you're matching your energy, then you can get caught up in some of of the chaos. And the chaos has a very destabilizing effect in our mental state, right? It brings us into fear. And fear is this great divider of the human species. It is the opposite of love. And it creates more of what you just mentioned of separation sickness. So separation sickness is really being in the frequency band of the third dimension where there's this opportunity to be polarized, to be thought, to step into the belief that the illusion of separation is true, that you are not just the I am presence, that you and I are not both the I am presence. No matter what you believe or who you are or what you've done, it doesn't matter. We're all the same energy. We all come from the same place. There is no separation. We're all the same thing. We're all that I am presence. We're all the I am. I am that I am. And so there is no difference. There's no separation. I don't care who you are or what you've done. So that's the fact. And everybody has the opportunity to vibrate in a frequency that resonates with that I am consciousness. And when you do, then that's like saying, hey, I have a ticket to hop on the train to move into those higher bands of frequency, to start letting go of this belief in this separation and letting go that any one person could be better than another person, or that there is a difference between us because we look different. Are you kidding? It has nothing to do with anything other than how you incarnated to carry out what it is you wanted to experience while you were here. But as we move into those higher bands of frequencies, incarnation will change. We will start to shift in the way that we notice things, or the things we care about, or the things that we think are important. We're going to understand that the only thing that is truly important is more and more of the reconnection and the knowing of that I am frequency within each and one of us.
It's so simple.
It's so simple.
It's so simple, yet it's so challenging. All right.
Yeah.
When in the video, the 5-year one where you discussed your team,
Mm-hmm.
has that remained consistent? And can you go into some who that is?
Yeah, sure. So the mantis are a group of beings who are very well. Okay, so like all species, there are mantis who are very benevolent, and there's mantis who are involved in things that aren't so benevolent. I mean, if you look at humans are the same, right?
Yeah,
If you look at
exactly.
any species, they're going to be the bad actors and the good actors. So I think they get a bad rap on this planet of being part of the hybridization program, or the program to grab people against their will and take them. So that was many years ago that was more prevalent on the planet. I think there are less people being abducted now than there used to be. Things have changed energetically. So the mantis that I work with are this group that have always been caretakers of the earth. They've been here for millions and millions of years, and they are masters of genetics. And so I always matched their energy very well, because they actually told me that they helped place me where I was, where I
Oh,
grew up, and that they were the beings that were around me when I was a child, that they were the ones that were gently steering me in the direction of, reclaiming my own scientific knowledge, understanding what I've always known about DNA and working with it, and how it's this sacred molecule of the universe that is used to bring about form from energy. And they've taught me a tremendous amount about that. So they're like my family, I would say. They're
and can you describe them too from?
Yes. So the mantis, they look similar to what you would see on our planet of a praying mantis, but they're very, very tall. They're very large. They're 8 to 9 feet tall. Very large eyes. They have that triangular shaped head. And I often see them in robes, so robes with a large backing and long flowing robes. And when I began working with them, it was because I was doing a meditation where I was going into the earth to prepare myself to do sessions in body talk. And I was doing these every day. I was doing several a day. And I started to see this room that I was in, and I started to see these beings sitting around a table, and one at the head, the largest being that I knew was female. And she was standing at the head of the table, and she would always be there in my healing sessions. And she started helping me understand the body and how the body shifts with, in Body Talk, we use tapping. And she started to let me know that I didn't need to use that protocol, that she was going to help me understand how to heal people using sound. And so I would hear tones in my ears, and I wasn't a singer and I wasn't classically trained or anything. And so it was hard for me to start using those tones because my vocal cords weren't trained to match her pitch. But with time and with practice and with an understanding, it began to evolve, and I began to understand how to use them. And I started incorporating sound bowls and tuning forks and other instruments to help also match those specific frequencies. But she was the one that taught me about sound and how effective sound is at shifting DNA. And so that
Can I
was
ask, can I ask you a
amazing.
question? I can't even
Yes.
until I get this out of my mouth. I'm so
Yes.
stuck in it. Okay, so like for me, it started out with normal looking guides, like this one was in a robe or whatever, just a
Hmm.
human form. When you first became connected to these 8, 9 feet tall mantis, and they first started coming into your vision, were you
Yeah.
like shocked initially, or were you just like, oh, okay,
Initially, I didn't know what they were. I did
okay,
not know who they were. I just knew that the energy that they
just felt
emitted
good.
was so incredible. I don't know that I had ever felt love like that
Oh
before.
man,
Because yeah, child of the 70s. My mom was really distracted. She had 4 kids, and I just didn't, I didn't have that experience. I had never felt that kind of profound love before. It was the first
oh,
time I felt totally whole, seen, understood. It was incredible. So I thought, my God, this is incredible. Yeah, of course, this being is a loving presence. I didn't question it because
right.
she was so compassionate. And with the
Oh,
people I was working with, she brought me into a new level of compassion that I hadn't even tapped into. So I knew that I didn't really question. I just knew that she was good and that she was helpful and that she was helping people feel better. So I was
man.
went with it. And it was later, it was about a year later that I was working with someone and she said, "Oh my gosh, you have so many mantis around you." I said, "Mantis? What are mantis?"
Oh my God, you didn't even know that's what it was.
No, I
Oh
didn't
my
know. They were
gosh.
just these huge beings. And I was just like, "Oh yeah, you're amazing."
That's
Uh,
so great and so trusting. And just when you go with the feeling of it, it also sounds like that the look of it didn't even distract you because the feeling was so powerful and
no,
so good.
you
Wow,
know,
what a
they
story.
at sometimes I was a little, I thought, gosh, if they ever walked into my room at night, I think I would be a little scared. Are you going to like bite my head off, or
Yes.
are you going to be that loving? I mean, they did scare me a little bit because they're just so, they have such a presence to them. They're so amazing and so powerful.
Wow.
Um, but I had a lot of trust because it was just all good with them. So I knew. At the same time, I was also starting to recognize that I was connecting to other extraterrestrial races. I recognized that I had an affinity for the Arcturians and that they were very easy for me to connect to, and that they were also bringing energy and light into the sessions that I was doing. So I had this whole awakening of understanding because I started working with more and more people, and everybody vibrates differently, right? We all have our signature vibration, and that determines which star family that you have shared genetics with and that you energetically resonate with. And so for me, I resonate with the Arcturians and with the Mantis. But other people I would work on, I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, you're Pleiadian." I'd say you're Pleiadian. They're not Pleiadian per se, but they resonate in coherence with the Pleiadians. And then they would have, it would be easy for them to have a Pleiadian guide come in and talk to them and give them information. And I'd say, "Oh, well, that makes so much sense because Pleiadians, have what I notice with Pleiadians are very, very, very heart focused, and they've used the heart as a technology, the frequency of the heart as a technology to do all kinds of different things. And but sometimes the humans that resonate in that frequency here have a lot of inflammation in their body, and they have a tendency to have physical issues that are in alignment with a lot of inflammation because they feel and they sense things in a way that their human body, until it catches up with the knowing of the why they're feeling and sensing in that way, can create an immune response, because we're feeling into our environment all the time. The immune response thinks, it's always like self versus other. And if it detects something that isn't safe, then it's going to create an immune response, inflammation, i.e. inflammation, to handle that. So yeah, Pleiadians are notorious for having a lot of inflammation in their body.
I'm Palladian connected.
Yes, yeah.
And yeah, when I first started meditation in my 20s, there was a lot going on that I needed to heal. So
Yeah. Yeah.
there you go. Who tell it okay, because I know we're running close on time, because I really appreciate this activation that you're going to deliver to us. How about one more group that is just so meaningful to you that you work with?
Mm. Yes. So I'd say more recently, the energy, because we're getting into a higher band of frequency and we have this opportunity, I have been connecting with Ganesha a lot, which has been an incredibly sweet, powerful, compassionate energy that I've really, really enjoyed. It's been helpful for my own healing. And here's another one, because I'm like I'm the queen of controversial guides. I have been connecting with,
Love that. Love that.
here we go, an
Let's hear it.
Anunnaki guide who has been on the side of helping humanity. Um, and who has come back during this time, because the Anunnaki were very instrumental in shifting our DNA's frequency,
Yeah.
both in some in ways that were beneficial and some in ways that were about control. And this guide has come back sort of to enlighten me about that whole experience and take me through the whole process of what happened and help me understand how our DNA has been manipulated, but also how we have the opportunity to take back control and the power of our DNA and to start working with it ourselves. And I actually had already been teaching a class about how to do that with DNA a couple of years ago. And he's just bringing it all back full
Uh,
circle and revising that, because we're moving into this new band of frequency. And he's like, it is on now. So he's back, he's helping me. And
uh,
it's been fascinating working with him, because at first I was like, oh my God, why are you in my field?
yeah.
You know?
Well, and I that doesn't surprise me at all, because I also know there's some reptilians that are really good. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like you said, there's polar. I haven't heard about the grays being good, but I'm sure they are. Do you know anything about that? I'm sure there's some
Well,
good grays
what I
out
feel
there.
is that what I've always heard about the
Helpful.
Greys, and what feels true to me, is that their bodies that we see here, they have
Yeah.
their consciousness into a vehicle that's more synthetic, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that what people feel from the Greys is they feel that lack of wholeness of an incarnate being that's fully there, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
they're projecting their consciousness into a vehicle, which we're all doing to some degree. But I think the whole thing for humans is about embodiment. It's about, allowing that whole consciousness of the I am presence to be the embodiment that we seek. And that's our evolution, right? That's a big pop of evolution for us. But
Yeah.
for the Greys, I feel like they've lost their ability to do that. And so they do like the energy of humans, because humans are, we vibrate with emotion, we vibrate with all this feeling and all this projection of energy. And they don't really have that ability so much anymore. So they're very attracted to us to understand, it's all evolution though. How can the Greys get back to being an embodied spirit
Yeah.
again, right? So they're studying us and they're trying to understand, how do we get back? How do we get back? So it's not all nefarious. It's kind of like the desperation. I always see beings who are living off the energy of other beings as desperate. They're like
That makes sense.
parasites in a way, right? They're
Yeah.
they're desperate to try and understand, how do I emit and generate my own energy, because I've lost the ability to do that because I went too far into technology. And that's what we've got. I mean, that's a whole other topic, but we have to always stay balanced. We have to stay balanced and remember that we have Earth intelligence here and we don't have to go with the artificial intelligence.
I would second that.
Hmm.
Okay, Jaylene, really good. And I also want to talk about well, let's just say the pineal gland through all this is so important. And I know you really uh, work
Mhm.
with that and decalcification and fluoride and all that stuff that really
Yes, super
uh,
important.
muffles it, to use your word, or dumbs
Yeah.
it down. And knowing that when that becomes more and less decalcified, that really opens the door to so much stuff. All right. Shall we move? Ooh, I'm already
Yes.
getting there, moving to the activation.
Good, good, good. Okay. Everybody with me,
Just be practice.
let's close our eyes and begin with some deep breathing to connect you to your being, connect you to your physical being. Breathing in through the nose all the way down to the belly, and breathing out slowly through the mouth. Each breath dropping you into your body more and more, feeling your energy connect all the way down to the lower chakras, to the lower dantian. And as you do, you see a stream of energy flowing through you and down through the lower chakras and down into the earth. And these roots of energy flow from you and they connect to Mother Earth and flow down through her being, moving through all of her layers, flowing down deeper and deeper through her being, all the way to her energetic crystalline core at her center. And you see beautiful light there, and your roots flow into this light. And as they do, you open up a connection between you and Earth, this sacred connection. And through this energy, we send her our love and our gratitude, all that she provides, and this experience that we are able to have here as incarnate beings. And as you share this energy with Earth, it begins to amplify within her being. And she begins to reflect back this blessing to you of love and peace and wholeness and healing. And as you inhale, that energy from the earth begins to rise up through your roots and move upwards towards your body. Each breath you draw in, bringing it higher and higher. And as it reaches you, you invite the energy in, and it begins to flow upwards to the soles of your feet, upwards through your chakras, rising up through your body, through every cell, flowing through your DNA, all the way up to your head and down through your arms. Your whole body is bathed in the frequency of Earth. And from above you now, you see a stream of golden light that flows in through the top of your head, and it brings with it all of the cosmic energies of benevolent evolution, all of our memories and our knowing of our whole history as a species, all of your galactic families, flowing in through the top chakras, flowing through your body, mixing perfectly with the energies of the earth, flowing through your whole being, down through your arms, down through the legs, bringing you into this divine reunion of sun and earth, and together combining at the heart. And this is the portal that the soul speaks through. This is the portal that the I Am presence flows through you. And so we breathe into the center of the heart. And as you do, you feel this chakra opening and expanding. And we're going to move now into the center of the heart. And imagine, if you will, your consciousness flowing down through the center of the center of the center of your heart, flowing deeper and deeper into this chamber of energy within you, flowing into the depths of your soul's presence within you, until you get to see a pinpoint of light, and that light begins to grow larger and larger as you get closer and closer. And that light begins to shine and to flow from this center until it is completely encompassing your awareness, and you are in the center of this brilliant, beautiful light. And this is the I Am presence within you. You are the expression of God. You are the expression of Source. You are here to be that expression in incarnate form, to experience, to love, to know, to be. All of that energy flows through you and flows from the center of your heart and begins to expand outward. And it expands outward, going up, and it expands outward, going down. So you have this brilliant beam of I Am presence light flowing both upwards and downwards, filling every chakra with this light and this consciousness. And that it moves from side to side, outward, flowing all of the energy out to the left and to the right, flowing freely in either direction. And at the pinpoint of it all, at the center of the center of the center, is your soul, is your own I Am presence. And that is spreading its light in all directions from within you. as you breathe, know that this energy that is within you is always flowing, is always the innate aspect of you that is your deepest truth, that you are always an expression of the divine, that you are always flowing along your path of evolution in right expression. You are always moving in the correct direction because you are always one with the divine. And that is the innate aspect of you that is never changing, that is always true. You always reside within this beautiful energy. You only need to turn towards it, to flow with it, and to allow it to express through you. And this brings you into that knowing state of human expression, of true embodiment. And so with this process today, we invite in that full embodiment of the I Am presence within us, so that we each may walk that path of the I Am presence before us, allow ourselves to be fully embodied, fully sovereign, beautiful expressions of all that we came here to experience, to be, and to know. And with that, take a nice deep breath in. Release it out. And allow yourself to release any energies that are ready to come up and out and let go, so that you may radiate in this frequency more easily, more effortlessly, more freely. Any energies that make that more difficult, we invite them now to gently release, to let go, to allow themselves to become neutral, to become integrated into your knowing of experience. We invite all of the energies of your I Am presence to compassionately enable you to see your own truth and to feel it and to know yourself as whole, to know yourself as free, and to know yourself as one with the divine. And so it is. Mm-hmm. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes or stay in this energy for as long as you wish.
Nice. You can pause it if you wish. So yummy. And we really got to hear the sounds that you talked about, the singing. It's like I do some singing, but it's a lot of toning as well. So that was beautiful to hear. All right. I'm good. All your links are going to be listed below. And if you're watching this, Jailene's website is JaileneTracey.com. Did I say that correctly?
You did.
I did. So that'll be in here too. Hey, thank you so much for, again, sharing your knowledge. And I always love hearing about ascended beings and different people's perspectives. And I love the one that they were around you for a year before you knew exactly who it was. I mean, that's ballsy. That's great. Loved it. Hey,
thank you, Eden. So much fun.
You're welcome. It was really fun. All right. So stay with me for a second. We'll say goodbye. And to everybody, stay tuned next week. Really fantastic people coming on the show. And Jailene says goodbye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Mm-hmm. Y'all, find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Truth Social, as well as Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, plus a plethora of other audio directories like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So like, subscribe, do it all. See ya.